Hello and welcome to Knobcat Games Dungeons of the Obelisk podcast. I'm your host, Joe Sleppy, and I'm joined today by podcast veteran and the team's animancer, Nika Deer.
Hi.
And we also have a podcast newbie, our new hacker man, Nicholas.
Hey, glad to be here.
Glad to have you. For anybody that's just tuning in, if this is your first episode, this is we're a small dev company called Knobcat Games, and this is sort of our audio journal, our progress, as you will, as we work on our game, Dungeons of the Obelisk. It's a 2D turn-based dungeon crawling loot grinding adventure, and we have a few things to talk about today. The first of which is, welcoming Nicholas to the team. We'd like to maybe get to know you a little bit, and I'm curious what it's like jumping into a project like this. So,
sure, I'll say what I can. Hey, I'm pretty new here, as has been covered. Name's Nicholas Karaya Kylar. I spared poor Joe from having to attempt that last name, at least without a couple weeks practice.
I appreciate it.
It's just not a problem. I'm the new programmer, a graduate of Northeastern University in Boston. Good place, with a computer science and game development degree, so hopefully qualified to work here. And what is it like jumping into a project like this? Well, that is a good question, and it's very exciting and also very intimidating. Lots of good work has been done on the game already, as I'm sure, if any of you have seen any of the screenshots or GIFs or videos or even played any of the demos that might be out if those are available. You can already see how much has been done on the game, and the amount that's been done on the back end is even more impressive. All sorts of calls to all sorts of parts of your computer that you probably didn't even know existed. So walking into this, have you ever seen that GIF from Community, the one where the guy with the pizzas walks into the apartment and everything's on fire?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's not like that, actually, because the code base that you have here, it's extremely well put together. So I'm not walking into an apartment on fire at all.
That's good to know. I'm glad that we have a solid basis for you to come in on.
Oh no, it's one of the best I've seen, definitely. In my other job, I work for a pretty big company making a pretty big product, and their code base pales in comparison to the efficacy and good standards that have clearly informed this one.
Wow.
But that does mean that it's taking me a while to figure out how everything works, because there's just so much, and every code base, no matter how good it is only as good as its documentation, and this code base doesn't have much documentation aside from comments in the files.
It's also a fairly complicated game too.
Yeah, no.
It's got a lot of little subsystems and different things that I've come up with, and so
yeah,
I
the detail is
it's
definitely an enhancer of that factor. But it's also, that makes it really fun to work with. Like the way that the minor stats are handled in the game, and the way certain enemies have some minor stats, but not others. That's actually a really efficient system that I had a lot of fun working with when it came to applying those minor stats into combat. I've done a bit of that work so far, although I am largely still learning the code base. I think it'll probably take me a bit longer before I have as much of a mastery of it as previous contributor. But I'm going to do my best, and I'm having a blast so far, and I hope that if even the code monkey in the basement going whoop, 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 on his laptop is having fun, then preferably the person playing it will have even more fun.
Yeah, that's something that I say all the time. I just want this project to be fun for everybody. If it's not fun, then it creates a not fun product. Yeah,
of course.
So that's really good to hear. Let's see. One of the things that's been on our list to talk about for a while now is just a little bit of balancing in the game. Some topics that we haven't quite gotten to in fixing in the code yet, but there are things that I feel like would be interesting to a listener. Anybody that's watched our previous prototype videos, which are available on YouTube. You can go to knobcat.com and find the link to those videos. In our previous build of the game, well, current build of the game, we have a tutorial sword, which my original thought with the game was I thought it would be fun for the player to basically go naked into the dungeon with a cool sword to start. And it works really well, the balancing, the way I like designed it. But the problem is you have a cool sword to start with, and you never end up finding something better than it for like the first 3 or 4 levels of the dungeon. So you keep finding weapons, but if you replace your tutorial sword, then it kind of it kind of screws you, and you can't beat the dungeon anymore because of the way it was designed. So part of that is we're rolling back, I think, and we're going to go with more of a traditional ARPG start, where you start with just a bunch of trash items, and we're going to make the tutorial sword just into a regular legendary item. And then one of the other problems that arise is with like our karma. The way karma, I'm trying to think of how to explain it, and feel free to ask questions along the way if so it's not just me rambling about this topic. But,
no, please go ahead.
The issue that we had is the attacks have a set range of damage. So the damage range doesn't change as the weapon levels up. But as the weapon levels up, it gives you more of a major stat, so that makes your attacks more powerful, or your character more powerful. So the idea is, as you level up, you want to get higher level items so that you have more major stats and your character becomes more powerful. But we've found an issue with the way the weapons currently work is the mana cost scales off item level, and it actually makes you want to keep a lower level weapon to keep your mana cost lower, because the weapons deal the same amount of damage at different, at the same level with, the same amount of major stats, the same strength score for your weapon. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm a little like into it deep because I've designed it, so it's I never know if I'm like explaining it well enough.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and that's a classic sort of game design balancing problem.
Yeah, and
often it's the kind of thing that you really only see when you start swinging the sword and realize that why did I throw away that old sword?
Yeah, exactly. So that was something that we were, working on fixing, once Kel left, and now that you're coming on, that's kind of one of our current projects, one of the balancing issues that I've been working on. So I think the way we're going to do it is to add a weapon power stat, which might be invisible to the player. I'm not sure if that's going to be like forward facing or not, but what it does is it makes your attacks more powerful as well. So you scale with your attacks, scale with the weapons. So you're doing a larger percentage of damage, even if you have the same strength score on your character.
Yeah, that makes sense. Another way to differentiate your loot.
Yeah, exactly. And then that adds a few like cool things that we can do with that, where legendary powers can affect weapon power and stuff too. So that's one of the new things that we're going to try. I don't know if anybody noticed that like issue when they were watching the videos or not, but it's definitely something that I noticed while we were testing.
There's another balance thing I've noticed, which I don't know if this is already on your radar, but I thought I'd raise it. Do you mind?
Yeah, for sure. This is the interesting stuff that I think people like to hear on the podcast. So I'd love to hear.
Well, I've been doing sort of a lot of run-throughs of the various demos, and of course just playing the game in the editor to test various features. And I've noticed that around like level 4, level 5 of the dungeon, this is a factor of how dexterity scales, but enemies, just like absolute trash mobs, the slimes, the glubs, and the puke rats.
Yes.
They are speedy little expletives deleted. Like, I'll enter a battle with them, and then, like, 20 hits before I can take my first move. And it only gets worse, actually, as you go up in levels. Their damage doesn't really seem to increase, especially since, dev privilege, I have all the best armor, weapons, and skills. Even so, the fact that, I'm sitting in my chair, just kind of sipping my tea, watching them punch me in the face for 30 rounds before I can take my first move. That's probably something that we want to take a look at.
Yeah, for sure. That's not something that I noticed, I guess. It is going to be an issue, like how people play the game. So there's going to be a little bit of testing and watching people play through and stuff that we'll do. Like, I don't know when we get to testing on that. So it's always interesting to get another point of view on how the game's working right now.
Right.
My thoughts on that is just like off the top of my head, the way it's supposed to work, and not saying it's working properly, but you're not supposed to be able to go through the levels quickly. You have to grind. Level 1's super easy, level 2's super easy, but like you said, around level 4 it starts getting harder, so you do have to grind to get better gear and stats so that you can progress through. There's a lot of experience required to get to the next level for your character, and then I'm not sure if it's gonna confuse people, because I don't know if people are gonna think that they're supposed to be able to get through these 10 levels quickly or not, but that's kind of the way. Like, you kind of have to think about the balance of the stats on your character, and right now dexterity definitely is one of the most important stats, so you might end up having to have more dexterity than the other stats. The stats aren't like, you want to have 25% karma, 25% dexterity, 25% strength, 25% constitution. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if people like to have things balanced in quotation marks.
Right.
But the thing is, you have not counting your artifact and companion, because those are like premium items. You have feet, legs, body, helmet, offhand, and main hand. So you have 6 item slots, but there's only 4 major stats. So you get a major stat from each one of those items, so you're going to be able to double up on 2 of them, if that makes sense, or even triple up on dexterity and then have one of the other stats on each of your other pieces. So it does become a like, how do you play the game thing, and how are people going to perceive how they should play the game. So without knowing specifically like what your build was and how things were working, that's kind of my initial thoughts on it, but it's definitely something that I want to look into more. The other thing that I would add to that as well is we actually don't have any of the stronger mobs into the game yet. So the issue that you're talking about will only be
exacerbated.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like trying to think of a better word than that, but yeah, it's only gonna be exacerbated whenever we add the stronger mobs. So, right. And it'll become a balance issue. If we think they have too much dexterity, then all we have to do is balance, their numbers a little bit. There's another behind the scenes thing, I guess, on how the mobs work is they're based on the average loot of a character wearing rare gear. So if you take the stats that you would get from rare gear and all 6 of your slots, total that up, you can kind of make like an average. And then what we do is we do like a 50% less, 50% more, and then that kind of creates our chart that we grab the mob stats from. So, a trash mob is down below the, around the 50%, half of that stat, and then like, the stronger mobs will be, above that stat. So if we get into a balancing issue, then we'll just, instead of 50%, which is actually an arbitrary number that I just kind of picked to start with, we can decrease that to 45 or 30 or whatever it needs to be to make the mobs, weaker, or if they need to be stronger, we can go the other way, and just kind of change their range on what they need to be.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to take a lot of play testing, and it's going to take a lot of me paying attention to what other people are doing, because whenever I get in, I know all about the game because I designed it, so I know like what weapons I want to grab and what stats I want and stuff like that to kind of game, the meta for the game, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
Other people will jump in and they don't know the meta, they're trying to figure it out. So what we want to do is make that learning curve not too hard but not too easy. So
right. I mean, eventually, they'll just be able to look on the wiki, but before we have a wiki.
Exactly. I have the website for the wiki, so it just links to the knobcat.com. It doesn't have anything on it, but I do have that earmarked for an eventual thing. Well, that's probably enough in-depth talk about the game for this episode. Let's move on to our other segment, which we have kind of skipped in the past few episodes, but I say it like, what are you working on right now? So, I'll start. My what am I working on is, I've been making a few documents for Ben so that he can start drawing the legendary items. That was something fun that I got to do recently. And then the other thing is I'm working on taxes, which isn't fun. So that's my what am I working on. Nika, you've been quiet the whole episode, but you're working on something pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I'm working on one of the new mobs. It's called a Sludgeosaurus. I don't know if we've talked about it much in the podcast. There's like an interesting story of how we got to Sludgeosaurus between you, Joe, and Ben, but
I don't think we talked about that. I know we've shown it on the Discord, so people have seen it, and they can go there if they haven't and check it out. I don't remember how we named it, to be honest.
I feel like I remember hearing it was like gonna be a cross between like a sewer alligator and a kobold, kind of.
Yeah, that's where we started. It was I kind of suggested kobold, but I told Ben to go wild with it and see what he thinks, because he's the monster designer. So I always trust his vision usually.
Oh yeah,
and then we go back and forth and tweak it a little bit, but
yeah, so I've been animating this kind of raptor-y looking mob, and it's been fun because you have your movies like Jurassic Park and stuff, but really it's like, how would a sewer raptor Sludgeosaurus run, walk, move? And also our artist put like 4 eyes on it, so that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I kept being like, let's add some eyes, so I didn't think about you having to animate them all when I was suggesting.
See, what's kind of awesome is like the way he drew it. He drew the closed eyes like where the eyeballs would be, so you can literally just like turn the layer off and on. And
that's cool.
And like that's even easy to animate, but now that I've realized I can do that, I'm like, I animated all the eyes together. Maybe I should like separate them so they can close at different intervals. I debating how much work I want to put into that, but it's a beautiful like piece of work already. I've got the idle animation sorted out last night, and I want to work on the running animation today, because I feel like that's gonna really be an eye-catching part of it.
I just know, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get like accustomed to it, like acclimated to it, where like I stop being amazed at what you guys do. It just feels like every time Ben draws something, and then every time you animate it, and every time I play a new build of the game, I'm just like, this is the best thing ever. I like can't handle it.
I'm like really excited too, specifically just because, like, I don't know if this makes any sense, but I'm trying to like kind of make them move a little bit dog-like, if that makes sense. Like, I want them to be like,
sure.
like panting a little and like kind of eager and kind of like, I don't know. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I'm really excited to show it off.
Yeah, that sounds like it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I've just been working on getting the rig and the weighting working how I wanted, and I'm thinking this weekend I'm gonna try to get through as much of the animation as I can and see where I am Monday. But yeah, that's kind of where I've been working.
Awesome. I don't know, Nicholas, we kind of talked about where you were at already, kind of just getting into the code and figuring things out, but are you working on anything specific right now?
Yeah, I am. I just closed out a few of the bugs that are at the top of like the bugs and milestone sheet. Like you now retain your mana when you level up. Rats can no longer dodge. I figured out why that was happening and kind of overhauled the minor stat system somewhat. So minor stats should be a lot more applicable and a lot easier to implement when we implement the rest of them.
Oh, very cool.
The settings menu, those things weren't saving. They are now saving. Now I'm actually, the thing I'm actively physically working on right now, except not right now because right now I'm doing the podcast, but you know what I mean, is loading those settings. Turns out saving them, super easy, barely an inconvenience. Loading them, surprisingly tricky, but you know, I'll figure it out.
Right on. Well, we're getting close to the end of our allotted time for the show, so I would tell everybody thank you for listening to the end. We're glad to have you here, and if you've made it this far and somehow you're not in our Discord server, go to knobcat.com, find that link to the Discord and join, because that's where we post all of our art updates and different new things, you know, first links to any videos that I make, stuff like that. You know, you can get in there and chat with us, ask us any questions you have. You know, make it a party, come hang out. And also we have the Twitter and the Instagram. They're both at Dungeons Obelisk. I've been doing a very poor job at updating the Twitter, but I think Nika, you've been doing decent at updating the Instagram.
Oh, I've been trying. I need to post a bit more this weekend too, but
Yeah, we'll probably have some Sludgeosaurus spoilers pretty soon.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for the show. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.